I won $100 million in the lottery. My daughter-in-law locked me in the closet and stole my ticket. You're just a leech. It's our turn to enjoy the good life, she said. What she didn't know was, the ticket was in the name of, I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has reached. I still remember the exact moment my life changed forever. Tuesday morning, 7:23 a.m., sitting at my kitchen table with my coffee getting cold, staring at those 6 numbers on my lottery ticket. 7, 14, 23, 35, 42, 49. The same numbers I'd been playing for 12 years, ever since my husband Bill passed away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the ticket. $100 million. $100 million. I must have checked those numbers against the television screen 20 times before it finally sank in. After working double shifts as a hospital cleaner for 43 years, after pinching pennies and eating canned soup for dinner more times than I could count, I had actually won. The first person I called was my son Derek. He didn't answer, which wasn't unusual. Derek worked construction, and his phone was always dead or buried under tools. So I called Kaia, my daughter-in-law. Marlene? Her voice had that edge it always carried when talking to me, like I was interrupting something important. What's wrong now? Nothing's wrong, honey. I need to tell you and Derek something. Could you both come over? We're busy today. Derek's got overtime and I have plans with the girls. I took a deep breath. I won the lottery, Kaia. Silence. Then a laugh. Sure you did, Marlene. How much this time? $5? $100 million. The line went dead. 20 minutes later, Derek's truck was screeching into my driveway. They burst through my front door like they owned the place. Derek, my 38-year-old son who'd inherited his father's broad shoulders but none of his kindness, looked frantic. Behind him, Kaia strutted in wearing those designer jeans she somehow always managed to afford despite Derek's modest income. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, but her green eyes held a hunger I'd never seen before. Mom, where's the ticket? Derek demanded, not even bothering with a hello. I held it up, still trembling. Right here. I can't believe it, Derek. After all these years of struggling, Kaia snatched the ticket from my hands before I could finish speaking. She examined it closely, her lips moving as she counted the numbers. Holy shit, she whispered. Holy fucking shit, Derek. She actually won. Language, Kaia, I said softly, but she wasn't listening. She was staring at that ticket like it was made of gold, and I suppose in a way it was. Derek looked over her shoulder, his mouth hanging open. For a moment, I thought he might hug me, might say he was proud of me or happy for me. Instead, he started pacing. Okay, Mom, we need to think about this logically, he said, running his hands through his thinning hair. This is a lot of money. More than you could ever spend. You need help managing it. I need to call a financial advisor first, I said. And a lawyer. That's what they always say on the news. Kaia's head snapped up. A lawyer? Why would you need a lawyer? We're family. Something in her tone made my stomach clench. I'd lived with Kaia in my life for 8 years now, ever since she and Derek got married. She'd never liked me, that much was clear. I was the mother-in-law who lived in a small house, who couldn't afford to take them out to fancy dinners, who sometimes needed help with my electric bill. I was an inconvenience. But the way she was looking at me now was different. It was calculating. I just want to do this right, I said. Make sure everything's legal and proper. Of course it'll be legal, Derek said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Look, Mom, why don't you sit down? Kaia and I will make some coffee and we can all talk about this together. I should have listened to the voice in my head telling me something was wrong. I should have tucked that ticket into my purse and driven straight to the lottery office. Instead, I sat down in my worn recliner, the same chair where Bill used to watch his evening news, and I waited. I heard them whispering in the kitchen, their voices urgent and low. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't need to. After 66 years on this earth, I knew the sound of people plotting. When Kaia came back into the living room, she had a strange smile on her face. Marlene, Derek and I were talking, and we think you should let us handle the details. You know, the paperwork and all that complicated stuff. You've worked so hard your whole life. You deserve to just relax and enjoy this. That's very kind of you both, but I can handle it, The smile disappeared from Kaia's face. Actually, I don't think you can. I think you're too old and too confused to understand what you're dealing with here. Excuse me? Derek stepped forward. What Kaia means is that this is overwhelming, for anyone. And you, well, Mom, you're not getting any younger. Your memory isn't what it used to be. I felt heat rising in my chest. There's nothing wrong with my memory. You forgot Derek's birthday last month, Kaia said sweetly. I sent a card 2 days late because I was in the hospital with pneumonia. See? You're getting defensive. That's a sign of cognitive decline. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These were the people I'd sacrificed for. The family I'd helped financially whenever they needed it, even when it meant eating ramen noodles for a week. I want you both to leave, I said, standing up. Right now. That's when Kaia's mask finally slipped completely. No, Marlene. You don't get to make demands anymore. She nodded to Derek. And before I could react, he grabbed my arms. I'm sorry, Mom, he said, but he didn't sound sorry at all. This is for your own good. They dragged me to my bedroom closet, ignoring my protests, my pleas. Kaia grabbed the ticket from where she'd set it on the coffee table. You only suck us dry, she hissed as Derek shoved me into the small space. It's our turn to enjoy the good life. The closet door slammed shut. I heard the scrape of my heavy dresser being pushed against it. In the darkness, surrounded by my old clothes and the faint smell of Bill's cologne that still clung to his jacket, I finally understood. My own son had just imprisoned me in my own home. But, as I sat there in the dark, listening to them celebrate in my living room, I allowed myself a small smile. They had no idea what they'd just done. The first hour in that closet felt like 10. I could hear them moving around my house, opening cabinets, going through my things. Kaia's voice carried clearly through the thin walls. Derek, look at this place. It's like a museum of poor people. We're going to have to burn half this shit when we move her into a nursing home. Keep your voice down, Derek muttered. The neighbors might hear. Who cares? They're all as old and pathetic as she is. I pressed my ear against the closet door, straining to hear more. My knees were already aching from sitting on the hard floor, but I had to know what they were planning. So, what's the plan? Derek asked. We can't just keep her locked up forever. Why not? She's clearly suffering from dementia. Poor old woman probably wandered off and got confused. Had to be institutionalized for her own safety. The casual cruelty in her voice made my blood run cold. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. Kaia had thought this through. I don't know, Kaia. She seemed pretty sharp when she was yelling at us. That's what they call sundowning, Derek. It's a classic symptom. Sometimes they seem normal, then they have episodes. I could hear the smugness in her voice. I've been researching it, just in case something like this ever happened. My stomach dropped. She'd been planning this, waiting for an opportunity to get rid of me. Look, Kaia continued, your mother has been nothing but a burden for years. How many times has she called asking for money? How many family dinners has she ruined with her constant complaining about her health, her bills, her loneliness? She's been sucking the life out of us, Derek. This lottery win is like divine intervention. I closed my eyes, remembering all those times I'd swallowed my pride and asked for help. The month my roof leaked and I couldn't afford repairs. The time my car broke down and I needed a ride to my doctor's appointment. The Christmas when I couldn't afford gifts and quietly asked Derek if I could contribute to whatever they were buying the grandkids instead. Every time I'd felt ashamed. But I was their family. I thought family helped each other. She raised me, Kaia. She worked her ass off after Dad died. And now it's time for her to step aside and let us live our lives. Derek, we're talking about $100 million. Do you understand what that means? We'll never have to worry about money again. We can buy that house we've been looking at. We can travel. I can quit my job. What job? I wanted to scream. Kaia worked part-time at a boutique when she felt like it, spending more on employee discounts than she ever earned. We could give her some of it, Derek said weakly. Set up a trust or something. Give her money? Kaia's voice pitched higher. Derek, she's 66 years old and in declining health. What's she going to do with millions of dollars? Buy a yacht? Take a cruise around the world? She'd probably just give it all away to some charity, or leave it to the church. I heard footsteps approaching the bedroom. The dresser scraped against the floor, and suddenly the closet door opened. Kaia stood there with a bottle of water and a granola bar. "Here," she said, tossing them at my feet. "Can't have you dying of dehydration. That would complicate things. Kaia, please. You don't have to do this. We can work something out." She crouched down to my eye level, her perfectly made-up face twisted with false concern. "Oh, Marlene, you poor confused thing. You don't remember, do you? You already signed the ticket over to Derek, yesterday when you were having one of your episodes." "That's not true, isn't it? Your memory has been so spotty lately. Remember when you forgot Derek's birthday? Or when you called me at 3 in the morning asking if I'd seen your mother?" She smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "Your mother's been dead for 15 years, Marlene." I had called her that night, but not because I was confused. I'd had a nightmare about my mother, one of those vivid dreams that feel real when you first wake up. Half asleep and shaken, I'd reached for the phone before fully remembering where I was. "You're going to tell everyone that I'm incompetent." "I'm not going to tell them anything. The evidence will speak for itself. The locked closet, your increasingly erratic behavior, the way you've been forgetting things?" She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small recording device. "I've been documenting your decline for months, Marlene, just in case." My heart hammered against my ribs. "You've been recording me?" "Every phone call. Every time you've seemed confused or said something odd. Building a case." She stood up, smoothing down her jeans. "Derek felt guilty about it at first, but I convinced him it was for your own good. You need professional care, Marlene. The kind Derek and I can't provide." The closet door slammed shut again. I heard the dresser scrape back into place. In the darkness, I finally let myself cry. Not just for the money they'd stolen, but for the years of manipulation I'd been blind to. All those times Kaia had seemed concerned about my forgetfulness. The way she'd started answering Derek's phone when I called. The subtle suggestions that maybe I shouldn't be living alone. She'd been building a case against me for months, maybe longer, waiting for the right moment to spring her trap. But as I sat there in my prison, surrounded by the ghosts of my past life, I remembered something Kaia didn't know, something that would change everything. I wasn't as helpless as she thought, and that lottery ticket, it wasn't as simple as she believed. 3 hours later, I heard Derek's truck pull out of the driveway. Through the thin wall, I could hear Kaia on the phone. "Mom, it's me. You're not going to believe what happened. Derek's mother finally lost it completely. We had to have her committed." A pause. No, it's sad, but honestly, it's a relief. She's been getting worse for months." Another pause, then laughter. "Actually, it might work out better than we hoped. She had a lottery ticket, can you believe it? We're taking care of the paperwork now." My hands clenched into fists. She was already spreading the story, already building her narrative. By tomorrow, half the town would think I was a demented old woman who'd been institutionalized for my own safety. But Kaia had made one crucial mistake. In her greed and her rush to get rid of me, she'd acted too quickly. She should have asked more questions about that lottery ticket. The closet door was going to open again soon. I could feel it. And when it did, I'd be ready. By the 4th day, my water and granola bar rations had run out. My back ached from sleeping on the closet floor, and I could smell myself in the confined space, but I could also hear the panic creeping into Kaia's voice as she made phone call after phone call. "What do you mean I need her signature?" she was saying to someone, her tone sharp with frustration. "I'm telling you, she's mentally incompetent. She can't even remember her own name half the time." I pressed my ear harder against the door. This was what I'd been waiting for. "No, we don't have power of attorney. Why would we need that? She's family." A long pause. "How long does that process take?" "Weeks? We don't have weeks." I smiled in the darkness. The lottery commission wasn't as simple to fool as Kaia had assumed. You can't just show up with a winning ticket and claim the prize without proper identification and verification, especially not for $100 million. The closet door scraped open, flooding my eyes with painful light. Kaia stood there, no longer bothering to hide her anger. "Get up," she snapped. "We need to talk." My legs were stiff and cramped, but I managed to stand. Derek appeared behind her, looking uncomfortable. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "You're going to sign some papers," Kaia said, shoving a manila folder at me. "Power of attorney documents. So Derek can handle your affairs while you're recovering." I looked at the papers without touching them. "And if I refuse?" "You're not in a position to refuse anything, Marlene. You're clearly suffering from severe dementia. We have hours of recordings proving it. If you don't cooperate, we'll have no choice but to have you committed immediately. Those recordings are fake. You manipulated situations to make me seem confused." Kaia laughed, but there was no humor in it. Who's going to believe that? A confused old woman with obvious mental health issues, or two concerned family members trying to help? Derek finally spoke up. "Mom, just sign the papers. We're not trying to hurt you. We just want to take care of things while you get better." "I'm not sick, Derek. And I'm certainly not signing anything that gives you control over my finances." Kaia's face flushed red. "Fine. Have it your way." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the county psychiatric emergency line. They'll send someone to evaluate you, and when they see the state you're in after being locked in a closet for days, ranting about fake recordings and conspiracies—" "Wait," I said quickly. "Let me see the papers." I took the folder with shaking hands, pretending to struggle with reading the small print. In reality, I was buying time, thinking. The documents looked legitimate, but I recognized the lawyer's name at the bottom, Jim Hendricks. He'd been Bill's attorney years ago, before we couldn't afford his services anymore. "This says Derek would have access to all my accounts. All my assets." "That's right," Kaia said, her voice becoming soothing again. "So we can make sure your bills are paid, your medical expenses are covered. We're looking out for you, Marlene. And the lottery ticket? What about it?" "It would fall under Derek's control, too." Kaia and Derek exchanged a look. "Well, yes," Derek said slowly, "but we'd use that money to get you the best care possible." I set the papers down on my kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten countless lonely dinners since Bill died, where I'd sat just days ago, staring at those winning numbers. "I need to think about this." "There's nothing to think about," Kaia snapped. "Sign the papers or we make the call." I looked at my son, really looked at him. The boy I'd raised alone after his father died. The child I'd worked double shifts to support, whose college fund I'd emptied to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. "Derek, do you remember when you were 12 and you wanted that expensive baseball glove? The one all your friends had?" He frowned. "Mom, what does that have to do with anything? I worked 6 months of overtime to buy it for you. Gave up my own birthday dinner, my Christmas gifts, because I wanted you to have what the other kids had." "I remember," he said quietly. "And when you got married, I gave you my grandmother's ring for Kaia, the only valuable thing I owned." Kaia's hand unconsciously went to her finger, where my grandmother's sapphire ring caught the light. "You're my son," I continued, my voice breaking slightly. "I love you. But what you're doing to me now? This isn't love, Derek. This is greed." For a moment I saw something flicker in his eyes. Shame, maybe. Or regret. But then Kaia stepped forward. "Enough of this manipulation," she said coldly. "You're trying to make Derek feel guilty for doing what's necessary. This is exactly the kind of emotional manipulation that proves you're not competent to make decisions." She grabbed the pen from the table and shoved it into my hand. "Sign, now." I held the pen, my hand trembling, not from fear but from rage. These people thought they could steal my life, my dignity, my future, just because I was older and alone. "You know what, Kaia?" I said, looking up at her. "You're absolutely right about one thing." "What's that?" "I'm not competent to make this decision, not because I'm mentally impaired, but because I don't have all the information I need." "What information?" I smiled, the expression feeling strange on my face after days of despair. "Well, for starters, you might want to know that the lottery ticket you stole, it's not valid." The color drained from Kaia's face. "What are you talking about? The ticket has to be signed by the purchaser within 72 hours of the drawing to be valid. I bought it, but I never signed it. When you took it from me, you took an unsigned ticket." Derek leaned forward. "So sign it now." "I can't. The 72-hour window closed yesterday." Kaia grabbed the ticket from her purse, studying it frantically. "You're lying. This has to be worth something." It's worth exactly as much as the paper it's printed on. Nothing. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see Kaia's mind racing, trying to figure out if I was telling the truth or if this was some desperate bluff. "Check it yourself," I said calmly. "Call the lottery commission. Ask them about unsigned tickets and time limits." Kaia was already dialing, her fingers shaking. As she spoke to someone on the other end, I watched her face go through a range of emotions: disbelief, anger, panic, and finally, cold calculation. She hung up and turned to me with a look that could have frozen hell. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew the whole time." I shrugged. "I've been playing the lottery for 12 years, Kaia. I know the rules. Then why didn't you tell us?" "Because I wanted to see how far you'd go. I wanted to know what kind of people you really were." I stood up slowly, my joints protesting. "And now I know." Derek was staring at the worthless ticket in his hands. "So there's no money? None of it was real?" "Oh, the winning numbers were real," I said. "I really did win $100 million. I just didn't win it with that ticket." The confusion on their faces was almost worth the 4 days of imprisonment. "See? Here's what you never bothered to ask about. I've been buying lottery tickets every week for 12 years. Same numbers, same convenience store. But for the last 6 months, I've been buying 2 tickets each time." Kaia's eyes widened. 2 tickets? One for me, and one for my best friend Rose. We had an agreement. If either of us won, we'd split it 50-50. I paused, letting that sink in. Rose died 3 months ago, pancreatic cancer, but before she died, she made me promise to keep buying her ticket too, for luck, she said. The room was so quiet I could hear the old refrigerator humming in the kitchen. "The ticket you stole was mine, the one with my name on it. But Rose's ticket, well, that one I signed immediately, and I claimed the prize on Rose's behalf 2 days ago, as the beneficiary she named in her will." Derek's face had gone completely white. "You mean, I mean that while you've been holding me prisoner and planning to have me committed, I've been the legal owner of $50 million. Rose's half of the winnings, left to me by someone who actually loved me." Kaia's scream of rage echoed through the small house. Kaia's scream was still echoing when she lunged at me. Derek caught her arm just before her nails reached my face. "You manipulative bitch," she shrieked, struggling against Derek's grip. "You let us think we had it. You let us plan our whole future. I let you show me who you really are," I said calmly, though my heart was pounding. "And you didn't disappoint." Derek released Kaia and slumped into one of my kitchen chairs, his head in his hands. $50 million, he whispered. "You really have $50 million. Had," I corrected. Past tense. Kaia spun around, her face flushed with rage and desperation. "What do you mean, had?" "Well, I couldn't very well leave that money sitting in my account while you two were planning to have me declared incompetent and committed, could I? I've spent the last 4 days making some calls." It wasn't entirely true. I'd made one call, on my cell phone, which they'd never thought to take away from me. Amazing how people underestimate old women. They'd been so focused on controlling me that they'd forgotten I might have resources they didn't know about. "Who did you call?" Derek's voice was barely audible. "My real attorney. The one I hired 6 months ago when I started getting suspicious about Kaia's sudden interest in my health and memory." I looked directly at Kaia. "Did you really think I didn't notice you recording our conversations? You're not as subtle as you think you are." Kaia's face went pale. "You can't prove anything. I can prove you've been planning this for months. I can prove you imprisoned me in my own home. I can prove you stole my property and attempted to coerce me into signing legal documents." I pulled my cell phone from my pocket. "I've been recording too, Kaia. Everything. For the last 4 days." The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Derek looked up at me with something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Fear. "Mom, we can work this out. We're family." "Family doesn't lock family members in closets, Derek. It was Kaia's idea. I just went along with it because she said you were getting worse. She said you needed help. I felt a stab of pain at his words. After everything, he was still trying to throw his wife under the bus to save himself. And you believed her because it was convenient, I said. Because you wanted to believe I was becoming a burden so you wouldn't feel guilty about what you were planning to do to me. Kaia had been pacing the small kitchen like a caged animal. But now she stopped and turned to me with a smile that chilled my blood. You know what, Marlene? You think you're so smart, but you've made a huge mistake. What mistake? You just admitted to having $50 million, and Derek is your only living relative. Her smile widened. All we have to do is wait. Wait for what? For you to die? Of course. Old women living alone have accidents all the time. They fall downstairs. They forget to turn off the gas. They have medical emergencies and no one finds them for days. Derek shot up from his chair. Kaia, what are you saying? I'm saying your mother just signed her own death warrant. She has $50 million and no one to leave it to except you. Do the math, Derek. The room felt like it was spinning. In my worst nightmares, I'd never imagined it would come to this. I'd thought they were greedy and manipulative, but I'd never thought they were capable of actual murder. You're talking about killing me, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I'm talking about natural causes, Kaia replied sweetly. Stress-related cardiac events are very common in elderly women who've been through traumatic experiences. Like being locked in a closet by their own family. Derek was staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Kaia, you can't be serious, can I? Derek, she just cost us $50 million. $50 million. Do you understand what that means? We'll never get another chance like this. Never. She's my mother. She's a bitter old woman who's been nothing but a drain on our resources for years. And now she's proven she's willing to destroy our lives just to spite us. I backed toward the kitchen door, my mind racing. I needed to get out of the house, get to safety, call the police. But Kaia was blocking the most direct route, and I wasn't sure my 66-year-old legs could outrun her. Derek, I said, keeping my voice calm. You don't have to do this. You can still walk away. Take Kaia and leave. And we'll never speak of this again. Don't listen to her, Kaia snapped. She's manipulating you again, playing the victim to make you feel sorry for her. Derek looked between us, his face pale and confused. I don't know what to do. You know what to do, Kaia said, moving closer to me. She's been recording us. Derek, she has evidence of everything we've done. Even if we walk away now, she'll destroy us. She'll press charges, ruin our reputations, make sure we go to prison. Good, I said firmly. You belong in prison. Kaia's hand shot out and grabbed a knife from the magnetic strip on my kitchen wall. Enough talking. Derek stepped forward. Kaia, put the knife down. This has gone too far. Too far? She laughed, but it sounded more like a shriek. Derek, we kidnapped and imprisoned your mother. We stole her property. We plan to have her committed to steal her money. We're already criminals. The only question now is whether we're going to be poor criminals or rich ones. I was pressed against the kitchen door now, my hand searching behind me for the knob. The knife in Kaia's hand caught the afternoon light streaming through the window. Kaia, please, Derek said, his voice breaking. This isn't who we are. This is exactly who we are, she replied, her eyes fixed on me. We're survivors, Derek. We do what we have to do to get what we deserve. What you deserve. I couldn't help myself. You deserve nothing. You've worked for nothing, sacrificed nothing, earned nothing. You think you're entitled to my money just because you married my son? I'm entitled to it because I've put up with you for 8 years, Kaia snarled. 8 years of your constant neediness, your guilt trips, your pathetic attempts to stay relevant in our lives. The kitchen doorknob turned in my hand. Almost there. And now, Kaia continued, raising the knife, I'm going to solve all our problems at once. That's when Derek finally acted. He grabbed Kaia's wrist, trying to wrestle the knife away from her. Let go of me, she screamed, struggling against him. I won't let you hurt her. She's going to destroy us, Derek. Can't you see that? I turned the knob and stumbled backward through the door, falling onto my back porch. Behind me, I could hear them fighting. Derek trying to control his wife while she screamed obscenities and threats. My hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter-in-law is trying to kill me, I gasped. She has a knife. Please send help. As I gave the dispatcher my address, I could hear glass breaking inside the house. A crash. Then Derek shouting. Then silence. The silence was somehow worse than the screaming. I crept back to the kitchen door and peered through the window. Derek was on the floor, blood pooling around his head. Kaia stood over him, the knife still in her hand, her face completely calm. She looked up and saw me watching. Our eyes met through the glass and she smiled. Then she walked toward the door, toward me, the bloody knife gleaming in her hand. I ran. I made it to my neighbor's porch before my legs gave out. Mrs. Chen, bless her heart, took one look at me and pulled me inside without asking questions. Through her front window, we watched Kaia emerge from my house, still holding the knife, looking around wildly. Is that blood? Mrs. Chen whispered. I nodded, unable to speak. Derek, my son. Whatever Kaia had become, Derek was still my child, and now he was lying on my kitchen floor bleeding because he'd tried to protect me. The sirens grew louder. 2 police cars and an ambulance rounded the corner just as Kaia dropped the knife and raised her hands in the air. Even from a distance, I could see her transform her expression from rage to desperation, preparing her performance. "Oh, thank God you're here!" she cried as the officers approached. "My mother-in-law attacked my husband. She's been acting so strange lately, and when we tried to help her, she just snapped." I watched from Mrs. Chen's window as Kaia pointed toward the house, tears streaming down her face. She was good. If I hadn't lived through the last 4 days, I might have believed her myself. Officer Martinez, whom I recognized from the community meetings at the senior center, looked skeptical. "Ma'am, we received a 911 call from this address reporting that you were threatening the homeowner with a knife." "That's impossible," Kaia sobbed. "Marlene is clearly having some kind of psychotic episode. She's been getting worse for months. We've been trying to get her help, but she refuses treatment. And where is Mrs. Holloway now?" "I don't know. She ran off somewhere. Derek went after her, and that's when she attacked him with the knife. Please, you have to find her before she hurts someone else." I saw Officer Martinez exchange a look with his partner. They'd heard stories like this before, families struggling with elderly relatives who were losing their grip on reality. That's when I realized I needed to act fast. I squeezed Mrs. Chen's hand and stood up. "I have to go out there. Marlene, no. That woman is dangerous. She's dangerous, but she's also a liar. And if I don't speak up now, she's going to convince them that I'm the one who belongs in custody." I walked out of Mrs. Chen's house with my hands visible, moving slowly so the officers wouldn't see me as a threat. Officer Martinez spotted me immediately. "Mrs. Holloway, ma'am, we need you to stay right there." Kaia spun around when she heard my name, her face cycling through emotions faster than I could track them. Surprise, rage, calculation, and finally, renewed tears. "Marlene!" she cried, rushing toward me. "Oh, thank God you're okay. When you attacked Derek, I was so afraid you'd hurt yourself too." The officers moved to intercept her, clearly not wanting the two of us too close together until they understood what had happened. "Ma'am," Officer Martinez said to me, "we're going to need you to come with us to answer some questions." "Of course," I said calmly. "But first, you should know that I've been recording everything that's happened here for the past 4 days. I held up my phone, finger hovering over the play button, including the part where Mrs. Kaia Holloway threatened to kill me and then attacked my son when he tried to stop her. The color drained from Kaia's face. "She's delusional. There's no recording. Would you like to hear it?" I asked Officer Martinez. The next few minutes were some of the most satisfying of my life. As my phone played back Kaia's threats, her admission that she'd been planning this for months, her casual discussion of murdering me for my money, I watched her carefully constructed story crumble. "This is fake," she kept insisting. She doctored the audio somehow. Old people do that now with computers. But the recording was clear, unmistakably her voice, and the officers could hear Derek in the background, sometimes protesting, sometimes going along with her plans. "Ma'am," Officer Martinez said to Kaia, his tone completely changed. "You're under arrest for assault, kidnapping, and attempted murder." As they read her rights, Kaia's mask finally slipped completely. The tears stopped, the performance ended, and what remained was pure, ugly rage. "You think you've won," she screamed at me as they put her in handcuffs. "You think this is over? Derek is your only family, Marlene. When he dies, everything goes to me anyway. His wife, the money, the house, everything." Officer Martinez paused in his recitation of her rights. "Ma'am, what money are you referring to?" "She won the lottery," Kaia shrieked. $50 million. And when Derek dies, it all comes to me. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Even now, even caught and facing prison, Kaia was still planning my son's death. She was counting on Derek not surviving his injuries. "Officer," I said quietly, "there's something else you need to know about the money." An hour later, I sat in the hospital waiting room while Derek underwent surgery. The doctors said the head injury was serious, but not life-threatening. Kaia had hit him with a ceramic vase rather than the knife, though the cut on his forehead had bled dramatically. Detective Sarah Williams sat across from me, her notebook filled with the details of my story. She was younger than Derek, but had an old soul, the kind that came from seeing too much human ugliness too early in life. "So let me make sure I understand this correctly," she said. "Your daughter-in-law has been planning to have you declared incompetent for months. She imprisoned you for 4 days, stole what she thought was a winning lottery ticket, and when she discovered it was worthless, she decided to kill you for the money you actually did win. That's correct. And the $50 million? I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in days. "Well, that's where it gets interesting." Detective Williams raised an eyebrow. "You see, I did win $50 million on Rose's ticket, but I never said I kept it." "What do you mean?" "Rose had very specific wishes about what to do with any lottery winnings. She'd made me promise that if we ever won, the money would go to the children's hospital where her grandson was treated for leukemia." I pulled out a folder of documents from my purse. I honored her wishes. Every penny of that $50 million was donated 3 days ago. Detective Williams stared at me. "You gave it all away?" "Rose's half, yes, and my half of my ticket, when I eventually claim it, will go to the same place." I leaned back in the uncomfortable hospital chair. "You see, Detective, I learned something important these past few days. Money doesn't make you rich. Having people who truly love you makes you rich. And Rose loved me enough to make me her beneficiary. That's worth more than any lottery jackpot." So Kaia planned all of this, committed all these crimes, for money that was already gone? Money that was never hers to begin with. Detective Williams shook her head slowly. Wow. She's going to be furious when she finds out. I imagine so. But that's not my problem anymore. A doctor in scrubs approached us. "Mrs. Holloway? Your son is out of surgery. He's going to be fine. He's asking for you." As I stood up to go see Derek, Detective Williams touched my arm gently. "Mrs. Holloway? What you did giving away all that money, it was pretty remarkable." I thought about Rose, lying in her hospital bed, making me promise to honor her wishes. I thought about all the children who would receive better care because of her generosity. And I thought about Derek, alive and asking for me despite everything that had happened. "No, Detective," I said. "What's remarkable is that I almost forgot what really matters. But sometimes when you lose everything, you remember what's actually worth keeping." 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my new apartment, making coffee for 2. The morning sun streamed through windows that overlooked a small garden where residents of the senior living community could grow vegetables and flowers. It was a far cry from the house where I'd raised Derek, but it felt more like home than anywhere I'd lived in years. Derek knocked softly on my door at exactly 8 a.m., just like he had every Tuesday and Friday since he'd been released from the hospital. The head injury had left him with some memory gaps, which the doctors said might be permanent. But he remembered enough. He remembered the closet. He remembered Kaia's threats. And he remembered the moment he realized what she'd become. "Morning, Mom," he said, settling into the chair I'd bought specifically for his visits. His hair had grown back over the scar, but I could still see it when he leaned forward. "How are you feeling today?" "Better. The headaches are getting less frequent." He accepted the coffee gratefully. "I got the divorce papers yesterday. It's final." I nodded. We'd talked about this day coming. Kaia was serving 15 years for kidnapping. assault, and attempted murder. She'd tried to claim diminished capacity, but the recordings and her own admissions had made that defense impossible. Any regrets? I asked gently. Derek was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. I regret that I let her convince me you were becoming a burden. I regret that I didn't see what she was doing until it was almost too late. He looked up at me, and I saw the guilt he carried every day. But I don't regret that she's gone. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you human. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the community waking up around us. Mr. Peterson was already out in the garden, tending to his tomatoes. Mrs. Rodriguez was walking her ancient beagle around the courtyard. These were my neighbors now, my chosen family of sorts. I have something to tell you, Derek said eventually. I raised an eyebrow. I've been going to therapy. Dr. Martinez thinks I need to understand how I got so... He searched for the word. Lost. How I let Kaia manipulate me into treating you the way I did. What have you learned? That I was angry at you for years without realizing it. His voice was barely above a whisper. After Dad died, you worked so much. You were always tired, always stressed. I felt like I'd lost both parents, not just one. The words stung, but I'd been expecting them. We'd danced around this conversation for months. Kaia used that anger, he continued. She'd make little comments about how you were getting old, how you needed more help, how you were becoming forgetful. She made it seem like caring for you would be this huge burden, and I wanted to believe her because it meant I wouldn't have to feel guilty about being angry anymore. I reached across the small table and took his hand. Derek, I know I wasn't the mother you needed after your father died. I was doing the best I could, but that doesn't mean it was enough. It was enough, Mom. It was more than enough. I just couldn't see it, because I was so caught up in what I thought I was missing. A soft knock interrupted us. Through the window, I could see Mrs. Chen holding a covered dish. She'd moved into the community 3 months ago, after her daughter convinced her she needed more social interaction. Come in, Helen, I called. She bustled in, her gray hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. I made too much of that breakfast casserole again. You know how I am with portions. This was Helen's way of making sure Derek and I had a proper meal during his visits. She'd appointed herself the community's unofficial grandmother, and we all pretended not to notice when she accidentally made too much food. You're too kind, Derek said, accepting the dish. He'd grown fond of Helen over the months, and I suspected she reminded him of what a healthy family relationship looked like. Nonsense. Food is meant to be shared. She patted Derek's shoulder maternally. How's the job search going, dear? Derek had lost his construction job while dealing with the legal proceedings, but he was slowly rebuilding his life. I have an interview next week. Small company, residential work. The owner knows about everything that happened, but he's willing to give me a chance. Good for you. Second chances are precious things. After Helen left, Derek and I moved to the small balcony overlooking the garden. The morning was warming up, and I could smell the roses that Mrs. Rodriguez had planted along the fence. I need to ask you something, Derek said. What? When you donated all that money, the lottery money, did you do it partly to punish me? I considered the question carefully. No, I did it to honor Rose, and because I realized something important. What? Money that comes from pain and betrayal is cursed money. Even if I'd kept it, it would never have brought me happiness. It would always have reminded me of the worst week of my life. But you could have used it to help other people. Set up a scholarship or something that would have lasted longer than one donation. I smiled. Derek, that money saved 12 children's lives. The hospital was able to expand their leukemia treatment program. Rose's grandson, the boy she told me about, he's one of the kids who benefited. He's in remission now. Derek was quiet for a moment. I didn't know that. Rose would have been so proud. Her money, and it was her money, won on her ticket, went to exactly where she wanted it to go. And your half, when you claim your ticket? If I claim it? I'd been thinking about this for weeks. I'm 66 years old, Derek. I live in a nice apartment. I have good health care, and I have enough saved to last me the rest of my life. What would I do with $50 million? Travel, buy nice things, help other people. I can travel modestly with what I have. I don't need many things at my age. And as for helping people, I gestured toward the community around us. I'm already doing that, just in smaller ways. We watched Mr. Peterson showing a new resident how to properly stake tomato plants. The man was probably in his 70s, but he listened to Mr. Peterson's instructions with the eagerness of a child learning something new. I think I understand, Derek said slowly. The lottery money was never really about the money. No, it was about what people were willing to do to get it, what they were willing to sacrifice or destroy. He looked at me. Kaia would have killed you for it, and you would have let her have me committed. Derek flinched, but he didn't deny it. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for that. You don't need to make up for anything, Derek. You need to forgive yourself and move forward. That's what I've done. Have you forgiven me? I thought about the question. 6 months ago, locked in that closet, listening to my son plan my imprisonment, I'd thought I could never forgive him. But watching him rebuild his life, seeing him recognize how he'd been manipulated, witnessing his genuine remorse, forgiveness had come gradually, like dawn breaking. Yes, I said simply. I have. Derek's eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve that. Forgiveness isn't about deserving it. It's about choosing to let go of the anger so it doesn't poison the rest of your life. A comfortable silence settled between us. In the distance, I could hear children playing in the park next to our community. Normal sounds of normal life continuing. Mom? Yes? If you don't claim the lottery money, what happens to it? It goes back to the state education fund. Rose would have liked that too. Derek nodded slowly. She sounds like she was a good friend. The best. She taught me that real wealth isn't about what you have. It's about who loves you enough to trust you with their dreams. I stood up and stretched, feeling my age in my joints, but also feeling something I hadn't experienced in years. Contentment. Are you staying for lunch? I asked. If you'll have me. Derek, you're my son. You're always welcome here. As we went back inside to heat up Helen's casserole, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at me had gray hair and wrinkles, but her eyes were clear and peaceful. She looked like someone who had survived something terrible and come out stronger. Behind me, Derek was setting the table with the care of someone who understood that ordinary moments were actually extraordinary gifts. We had both learned in our different ways that sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what truly matters. The lottery ticket was still in my jewelry box, unsigned and unclaimed. $50 million in potential, gathering dust next to my wedding ring and my mother's pearls. Some days I thought about signing it, claiming it, doing something grand and generous with the money. But most days, I preferred to leave it there as a reminder that the most valuable things in life can't be bought, stolen, or lost. They can only be given freely, received gratefully, and treasured always. And I was rich beyond measure. Now I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been through something similar? Comment below. And meanwhile, I'm leaving on the final screen 2 other stories that are channel favorites, and they will definitely surprise you. Thank you for watching until